I'm not going down that.
Let's ask Dan Hoard what his drink of
Here
choice.
he is.
He's got to be a bourbon guy, I feel like.
Well, Dan's kind of highfalutin. You know, there was a time when Danny was coming up through the ranks and he was breaking in over at Channel 19 down there back in the old days. And, you know, I mean, very different guy than the guy. I mean, look at the background right there. I mean, that's a bourbon sipping, wine drinking, at least atmosphere. Danny, when you decide to have a cocktail every now and again, and I know it's not regularly, but when you do have one, what is your choice and or choices, plural?
Well, I just find it very amusing that framed sports jerseys has made me a bourbon guy somehow. I wish I was a bourbon guy. Quite honestly, I'm envious of bourbon guy because the bourbons out there seem really interesting to me. A lot of my friends are into it. I've just never had a taste for the hard liquor. So I'm a beer guy, but you kind of dismissively referred to the IPA guys. I do like IPAs.
Okay.
I'm kind of a fan of the bitter profile of the IPAs. So that's kind of my drink of choice these days. And I do like wine with dinner, but mostly IPAs when it just comes to, drinking with the fellas.
Okay. All right. Well, they're my kind of guy. Beer guy, it's good enough for me. Not this White Claw. Or what's the High Noon?
High Noon.
I mean, good. My daughter drinks High Noon. And she's in college.
People drink beer in college.
People drink beer in college. She's not old enough to drink yet. So. All right, Dan, look, you're going to be double dipping this weekend. You're back at it after the UC Bearcats had a bye week last week. And now all of a sudden, and I was talking before you came on, I read a couple of weeks ago, SMU had lost 2 in a row, I think, at the time. And I did not realize that some of the rules, though maybe not specifically are the same, but in general, I did not realize. I knew a player or a program could make a decision about taking a red shirt, and it's based on how much you play or don't play, and you're not allowed to play over a certain number of whatever the barometer is, games, snaps, minutes, whatever it might be, to get a red shirt. Not a medical red shirt, just a red shirt. I did not realize the same thing held true as far as the transfer portal is concerned. And I saw where SMU, correct me if I'm wrong, they had like 4 or 5 guys in 1 week that all of a sudden decided that they were shutting it down, they weren't playing the rest of this year, and they're going into the portal. Has that affected their team?
Well, it did not turn out to be the case, Thom. So that was widely reported that 4 of their best players were going to stop playing after 4 games in order to preserve an extra year of eligibility and then transfer to another school. He's gone. He's no longer on the roster. The other 3 guys that were rumored to be leaving ultimately elected to stay. One of them scored a touchdown in their most recent game against Navy. So it turned out to be kind of much ado about very little. Not nothing, but very little.
Okay, well, that's where I had left it. I just read it and I moved on, and knowing the UC game was weeks away. So here we are, 3.5-point favorite. What are your thoughts, or what are some of the things we ought to be looking for as a UC fan when you're watching the game on Sunday or Saturday?
Yeah, SMU is one of the best passing teams in the country. Tanner Mordecai, their quarterback, is 3rd in the country in passing yards per game. He's an Oklahoma transfer. This is his 2nd year with SMU. UC shut him down last year. He had 66 passing yards at Nippert Stadium. He was completely befuddled by the great Bearcat defense last year, but he's putting up even bigger numbers this year. That is going to be the big challenge for UC tomorrow.
Offensively, UC Bearcats on offense, SMU defense. What do you look for there?
Well, SMU is giving up a ton of yards and points. So they're 3-3 for that reason. They score a lot, but they give up a lot. And I would expect Cincinnati to have a lot of success offensively, pretty much no matter what they do. I think Cincinnati should be able to run and pass on SMU. SMU has really been vulnerable against the pass. So I would expect Cincinnati to put up a decent number of points. I think the question will be, can Cincinnati outscore SMU on its home field?
Are you surprised, and I don't know how much, Dan, you get wrapped up. I know you're not getting wrapped up in it when you're announcing the game, but just as a casual fan going into a game and looking at it, are you surprised that's only a 3.5-point spread?
Not really. I think SMU has underperformed a little bit. I think going into the season, most people thought SMU was going to be pretty good. They've got Tanner Mordecai. They've got excellent skill position talent. Rashee Rice might be the best wide receiver in the conference. I think he's third in the nation in receiving yards per game. So they've got players. They've got a lot of transfers. It takes time for those guys to gel. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. So it was a bit of an unknown where SMU is concerned. But I think the odds makers look at the roster and think that's a pretty talented team. They're playing at home. Cincinnati struggled in its most recent win against USF at Nippert Stadium. We don't know if Tyler Scott will be able to play, Cincinnati's most explosive receiver. So I think all of those things added up lead the odds makers to think this might be a really tight game.
Okay, let's shift gears now to the Sunday game here at home. And look, we were talking about it with Zim Hude a few minutes ago. Half the league is 3-3, it seems like. And so I'm sure in all of those cities, much like our city, you feel like every game is a must-win game. I think it's safe to say when the schedule came out, you saw the Falcons were coming to Cincinnati, and 99% of Bengals fans check the box, say, okay, that's a win. Falcons are playing pretty good football right now. I mean, they might have some numbers that, especially on defense, that aren't all that great, but they're playing good football. And the argument could be made, like it probably could be for a lot of 3-3 teams, that they could be 5-1 or 4-2. This is not a pushover game, right?
Correct. I think Arthur Smith is one of the better kind of underrated coaches in the NFL. They won 7 games last year, and looking back, I don't know how they did it. If you look at all of the other stats, I think Football Outsiders kind of projected their overall stats to be a 4-win team last year based on how many points they scored, how many they gave up, yards they gained, yards they gave up. Somehow they scratched out 7 wins. And now here they are this year with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. They're tied for first in the NFC South with Tampa Bay. So I think Arthur Smith is really sharp. They're going to run the ball all day. Last week, they ran it more than 40 times and passed 14. That's what they would like to do. Chew up the clock, keep Joe Burrow off the field, stay in it until the fourth quarter, and try to make a game-winning play. They've won 10 games since Arthur Smith has been the head coach. 9 of the 10 have been by 1 score. So that's the formula. Keep it close, run the ball, try to pull it out at the end.
Great stuff, as always, from Dan Hoard, nailing that down about Smith. The defensive line. We know that Reeder got hurt a couple of weeks ago, is going to be out for a while. I mean, there are positive reports, but he's not ready yet. If you're a Bengals fan tomorrow, is there going to be a guy or two where maybe you don't know much about, but they could be a very important factor, good or bad, in being able to stop Atlanta's running game tomorrow?
Yes, I think that guy is Jay Tufele, number 97. They claimed him off waivers from Jacksonville after training camp. He made his Bengals debut last week. He played 23 snaps against the Saints, and he had 6 tackles, including a tackle for loss in the red zone. So I thought he played reasonably well against the run, and that is his game. He's a big, kind of like Domata Peko looking guy. He has a Samoan background like Domata Peko did, has the big hair, kind of a wide-bodied guy with a lower center of gravity that kind of profiles to be good against the run. And I think he's going to play an important role, not only with DJ Reeder out, but Josh Tupou out. Probably the Bengals' second best run-stopping defensive tackle. I would guess that Logan Wilson is probably going to be out with his shoulder injury. So you're kind of missing the interior part of your defense, the spine right up the middle. And I think Jay Tufele is going to play an important role on Sunday.
So do you think if Wilson can't go, and there were positive reports on him the last couple of days at practice, but when he originally got hurt, everybody was thinking maybe a trip to IR. Tough dude, no doubt about it. Who takes his spot playing regularly in this game?
Mostly Akeem Davis-Gaither. I would think he would get the bulk of the snaps. Jermaine Pratt kind of takes over the Logan Wilson role. Akeem Davis-Gaither enters as the second linebacker, but you've got Marcus Bailey as well. I don't expect that to be a major problem. Logan Wilson is clearly the best linebacker they have, but he was out for much of training camp. Akeem Davis-Gaither was getting those reps on a regular basis and had a really good camp. So I expect him to play well. He's no Logan Wilson, don't get me wrong, but I think Akeem Davis-Gaither will be okay.
Hey, I want to ask you your reaction to this deal made by the 49ers last night. I don't think that's been confirmed yet. At least it wasn't on when we started the show an hour ago, a little over an hour ago. But it seems like it's true, giving up 3 big draft picks over the next couple of years, which they did the same thing. You may remember a few years ago to get Jimmy Garoppolo when they got him from New England. But Christian McCaffrey, I think we all agree when he's healthy that he's one of the most dynamic players in the league. Problem is he hadn't been all that healthy, and when he has been healthy, he's playing on a terrible team. What was your reaction to that trade?
Well, if he's healthy, I think it makes San Francisco unbelievably potent on offense. Combining him and Deebo Samuel on the same offense, 2 of the most versatile run-catch combination type players in the NFL with a great play caller in Kyle Shanahan, I think that really makes the 49ers potent. But it's the big if. Can he stay on the field? Barely played the last 2 years. He's been nicked and bruised so far this year. We know he's great when he plays. The question will be, can he stay healthy? My guess is no. I think after a period of time, once those injuries keep accumulating over and over again, they generally don't go away. Now, maybe San Francisco can manage it and have him be healthy when it matters most at the end of the year. That's probably the goal. But considering that I think they gave up a second, a third, and a fourth to get him, it's a pretty high price to pay for a guy who has not been able to stay on the field now for more than 2 years.
All right. Prediction, Sunday's game, Bengals v. Falcons. What do you think?
I think the Bengals will take care of business. They're favored by 6.5, right?
Right.
I think they win and they cover. I think the Bengals are ascending. Last week, the offense scored 30 or more for the first time in 11 games going back to last year, including the playoffs. I think they found something in their running game. They're not doing as much wide zone, sideline to sideline. They're running straight ahead much better, and Joe Mixon has averaged 5.6 yards each of the last 2 games. So I expect them to put up a reasonably high number, probably 30 or close to it against the Falcons, and I think they win and they cover.
Well, don't tell Brandon Sayo that. I mean, he's down there on the Madden thing. I don't know if you saw it. You know, he's doing these simulations every single week. Thousands of people down there at the Hard Rock Casino to dial in. And, Brandon, you want to tell Mr. Hoard how many points your simulation had the Bengals putting up?
14, and they lost 25-14. Now, look, I'm not agreeing with the simulation. I think the Bengals take care of it.
It's your baby, Brandon. It's your baby.
I call the games.
Feed the baby.
I do a terrible job on play-by-play, but it was the Bengals struggling with Mariota and the RPO, and the Bengals, it was a tight game until the third quarter, and they lost, like I said, 25-14. But those have been pretty spot on. They've been wrong twice, Dan, where the one time they were wrong was the opening game. They had the Bengals winning on the leg of Evan McPherson at the buzzer, which should have happened. They got the Dallas game right with a walk-off against the Cowboys. The Ravens game, they had the score right all the way till the fourth quarter. They had the Bengals winning by a score in Baltimore. But their 2 faults, the Bengals definitely had a chance to win. So I'm interested to see what happens.
Okay. All right. So, Dan, you're able to get out.
I hope Madden is wrong.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, that's right. So
I don't put a whole lot of stock in it, but we'll see.
So you are, I mean, that's an 11 o'clock kick tomorrow, right? Down in Big D.
Dallas time. Yep.
Dallas time, Central time. And then, so you should have no problems whatsoever. Our daughter goes to college in that part of the country. And so I think you got like a 6P or something like that flying back, 8P tomorrow night.
Team charter.
Oh!
Yeah.
See?
So
IPA guy. See,
Something
IPA guy.
on the
There
flight.
you go. Dan had me won over, and now once again has separated himself from the pack. Charter.
Yeah, team charter. I've got no issues this week. I'll be traveling with the Bearcats to Dallas and traveling home with the team. Should be home somewhere between 8 and 9 Saturday night. And it's good because my sister, Kim, is traveling to town with her husband, Larry. Larry is a huge NFL fan. They try to get to a Bengals home game every year. So Kim will be in town when I arrive, and it's always great to see one of my 4 siblings.
Did you get them tickets for the game on Sunday?
I did, and I did not have to pay for them. The Bengals were very kind in giving me a couple of tickets for my sister and her husband, and they're good tickets, so they will definitely enjoy the game.
Well, no question about it, they will. It's supposed to be a beautiful day. Temperatures in the 70s over the weekend. So, Dan, safe travels. Godspeed ahead. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Always enjoy it, Tom. Thanks for having me on.